The meta is changing. This season brought in a bunch of weapon buffs and more to come for hand cannons, bows, and glaives. Not to mention that we're seeing abilities get nerfed like the stasis overshield from Whisper of Rhyme, and we've also seen key mods and exotics being disabled, which got me thinking, what if we made a build that focused on gunplay instead of the classic ability loop spam that we've seen time and time again? So today, I've put together what I believe to be the best Titan weapon-focused build I could think of. I focused on making our weapons more powerful, quicker, and have more ammo, while at the same time giving ourselves the best option for surviving. Since this build doesn't focus on rotating through your abilities, it doesn't matter if you miss a grenade or a melee. You'll always have your guns locked and loaded and ready to decimate.
Locked and loaded.
Remember to leave a like if you found this video helpful. And if you like seeing videos and other helpful Destiny 2 content, hit that subscribe button. For this build, I went with the Solar subclass for two main reasons: damage buffs and healing. With the Solar subclass, we can make ourselves Radiant, giving us an on-demand 25% weapon damage buff. We then pair this with massive orb creation to get up to an additional 22% stacking weapon damage, meaning our weapons can be putting out upwards of 53% more damage on a regular basis. The other reason I chose to go with the Solar subclass was for pure survivability. Solar offers many ways to give yourself cure and restoration. For this build, we'll be using our weapons to extend the restoration that we're getting and gain extra recovery in the process. Let's jump right on into it. Looking at the super and the abilities. For the super, I'm choosing Burning Maul. Burning Maul can output more damage in a boss phase and has a shorter cooldown, meaning if we need to pop it to save our lives, we can do that more often. Though Hammer of Soul is also a great option, and if the boss is at range and you can't hit him from the ground, then Hammer of Soul is your better pick. Use whichever one you want. For our abilities, I'm choosing Rally Barricade. Not only do we get a shorter cooldown, but we get extra reload speed for our weapon, and this is a weapon build. I'm also taking Strafe Lift, use whichever jump you like. Throwing Hammer is the clear option for our melee. Picking it up gives us cure and refreshes our melee. Since we are going to be giving ourselves Radiant with our melee, we do want to have an option to always have this available. I'm also taking Healing Grenade. Since we are focusing on our weapons, I'm picking healing to add another way to give cure and restoration. It helps if you're in a pinch. For our aspects, I'm choosing Soul Invictus, mainly because this will create sunspots. When we're using weapons that have incandescent and scorching targets, this is going to create sunspots wherever we're getting weapon kills. Whenever we stand in those sunspots, we're also going to be granted restoration, which is huge to staying alive. I'm also picking Roaring Flames. This will increase our solar ability damage, which is good for our super, but the other option for the aspect doesn't really add a buff anyway, so we will take Roaring Flames for up to a 3x damage buff to our super. For our fragments, I'm taking Ember of Torches and pairing it with Ember of Solace. Ember of Torches is going to make it so that our powered melee makes you and your allies radiant, giving us that 25% weapon damage buff. We then pair this with Ember of Solace so that that buff will last longer, and then whenever we are getting restoration from either a healing grenade or sunspots, that duration will also be extended a little bit further. We're also going to take Ember of Empyrean. Since we have multiple ways now to create radiant for ourselves as well as get restoration, our solar weapons and our ability final blows will extend that restoration and radiant. Since we will be using solar weapons, our restoration and radiant will continue to be extended time and time again. I'm also taking Ember of Tempering. Again, we are using solar weapons, and this makes it so that we gain increased recovery for us and our allies whenever we get kills with our solar weapons. This can stack up to 3 times, and we create a fire sprite with our solar weapon kills while this is active. There's the basis for the build. You have 2 options for what exotic to use. In raid-like scenarios, I'm recommending Loreley Splendor. In activities that are more ad dense and less about high boss DPS, I'm recommending Path of Burning Steps. Path of Burning Steps is awesome because you can technically reach a higher weapon damage buff, though you have to have enemies to kill every 11 seconds or it will go away. With Loreley, you have slightly higher survivability, and you can use surge mods, and those surge mods can last at least 30 seconds, if not longer. I'm going to be showing you the mods for the Loreley build because I do believe this is going to be the better build overall, though if you want to have some fun, Path of Burning Steps is better, and I'll talk about what mods to replace if you are using that. For our helmet, we're going to choose Harmonic Siphon. This makes it so that now our solar weapons are going to be creating orbs on rapid kills. We're also taking Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout so that we have increased heavy ammo drops, and we're going to be giving more heavy ammo to our team. For our gauntlets, we're taking heavy-handed, making it so that our powered melee final blow will create orbs. So now whenever we do use that throwing hammer, not only are we gaining radiant to get another 25%, but we're also creating an orb that we can easily pick up that's going to fuel our surge mods, giving us more weapon damage. I'm also taking a dexterity and a loader mod. When you have the harmonic version, dexterity mods will give solar weapons quicker ready and stow speeds. Our loader mod is going to make it so that our solar weapons have an increased reload speed, making our weapons just a little bit quicker. Depending on the activity, for our chest mods, I'm taking 2 to 3 resistance mods. If you're not doing super hard content like Grandmasters, I'd recommend replacing one of those resistance mods with a charged up, making our armor charge go up to a maximum of 4. If you are using Path of Burning Steps, charged up is not relevant and you can stick with 3 resistance mods. For our legs, if you're using Lorelei, I recommend 2 solar weapon surges and a harmonic scavenger. With 2 solar weapon surges, our solar weapons are going to be gaining 17% weapon damage. You could run with 3, though I like the added little extra bit of ammo that you get from scavenger. It also slightly increases your reserves, so if you are using something like a machine gun, it is pretty useful for that. Though if you are trying to put out the most damage as possible, you can run with 3 solar weapon surges. If you are running Path of Burning Steps, I'd recommend a harmonic scavenger, better already, and recuperation. That way when you are picking up orbs, you are gaining more health and starting health regen, as well as you are getting more heavy ammo in general. Since Path of Burning Steps does buff your weapon damage, it overwrites the surge mods and there's no need to have them. For our mark, I'm taking Powerful Attraction, making it so that when we use our barricade, we pick up nearby orbs. I'm also going to take Time Dilation, meaning our decaying armor charge has longer duration, and this is great for our weapon surge. When we pair this with charged up, we can get a total of 60 seconds of weapon surge because of the slower rate and the extra armor charge. I'm also taking Special Finisher. Since we are taking Heavy Ammo Finder, I chose to go with Special Finisher, meaning that we generate special ammo for us and our team whenever we use a finisher and have 3 armor charge. This is great if you do run out of special ammo. This will also give it to your team, meaning we're giving our team more heavy and special ammo, which is always good. For the artifact or this season isn't really about solar, so there's not really much that we can do to buff ourselves, though this could be even better in the future when it's a season that's focused on solar. Let's take a look at what weapons I might use with this build. Since this build is focused on weapons, we do want to be using solar weapons so that we are getting that extra buff. While it is important to use solar weapons for this build, it's not absolutely necessary to use exact weapons, so you do have a little bit of free range of what kind of weapon you want to use, as long as it's solar. For our kinetic slot, I like to take a heavy hitter, or whatever's best for the activity I'm doing. Succession and Heritage from Deepstone Crypt are both great options. They can both roll with recombination and some form of auto-loading holster, making it perfect for this build. Since we are using our solar weapon as much as possible, we're immediately buffing our other weapon, so if we do have Radiant, this can stack up to 10 times with recombination, meaning that we can pull out our kinetic weapon, do a very powerful shot, and then switch back to our main solar weapon. Other great options for something like champions and high damage is going to be the Riptide and Conditional Finality. Conditional Finality actually does solar ignitions, which is pretty good for this build, and it does pair nicely with the solar aspect, though it's not necessary, and Riptide's a great overall weapon for stunning multiple champions. Izanagi's and Witherhoard are perfect for raid-like boss phases. If you are trying to do the most damage that you possibly can, they are fantastic options for that. For the energy slot, we do want to take a solar weapon, mainly one with incandescent, but if you don't have a great weapon with incandescent, you can take a different damage perk instead. Something like Collective Action can actually amp up your weapons damage from a total of 46% all the way up to a total of 75% with all of our buffs. And this can go even higher depending on what damage perk you choose. If you do want to run double special, since we are creating more special and more heavy, the trace rifle such as Acacia's Dejection is a great option. It comes with reconstruction, so it will be continuously reloading itself, and you can pair this with incandescent to have even more firepower. When running a primary, I do like to take a SMG, and some great options are going to be the Callus Mini Tool, Bug Out Bag, or No Survivors. Some of these can roll with Subsistence and Incandescent, which is a great option. Otherwise, go with something like Kill Clip or some other damage perk that will make this weapon even better. If you're doing an activity that you have to stay a little bit further back, some great options can be the Amit AR2 auto rifle, the Staccato 46, and the BXR. These are great options because they can all come with incandescent or other damage perks, making them buff even more. So if you do want to run an AR, a scout rifle, or a pulse rifle, these are all fantastic options. You could also run an exotic in this slot, and this is perfect for this build since we do have a bunch of solar exotics that are fantastic. Not only will you create more ammo for your team and yourself because it's an exotic, but it will be hitting harder on miners. Some great options could be the Polaris Lance, the Sunshot, Tiku's Divination, Skyburner's Oath. These are all great depending on what the situation you're running is. If you're going against Cabal, Skyburner's Oath is fantastic fantastic. If you need to stay further back, Polaris Lance is perfect. And with the hand cannon buff coming, Sunshot is amazing all around since it does have pretty long range and it causes a decent amount of explosions. Since they already hit very hard on miners, getting that Radiant and that Solar Surge makes these weapons fantastic for clearing out rooms. For our heavy weapon, I usually like to take a solar weapon that is an exotic. It doesn't have to be an exotic, but it should be a solar weapon. Since we are pairing this with Solar Weapon Surge, making it a solar weapon is going to make our DPS even higher. Something like the Apex Predator, Cataclysmic, or Briars are all great legendary options for boss DPS. Depending on whatever the boss is, use whichever one is best in your scenario. Some other great exotics that you could use are going to be the Xenophage, Sleeper Stimulant, or the Galhorn. All are also great for damage phases and champs, and if you are running Galley, you are helping support the rest of your team. If boss DPS isn't your main focus, a few good ad clearing options are going to be the Heir Apparent, the Unwavering Duty, and the Avalanche. All are exceptional at ad clearing, and some great options for running most activities. Most builds nowadays focus on using your abilities as much as possible, and while that can be fun and very effective, I've had a ton of fun with this build because I get to focus on using my weapons, taking the game back to the basics and feeling more like a soldier rather than a wizard. Don't get me wrong, ability spam builds are still the meta and fun to use. However, if abilities get nerfed and Bungie keeps disabling mods because of glitches and bugs, then I'd recommend having a build like this in your back pocket ready to go. Let me know your thoughts on the build. What would you change or how would you improve it? If you like the video and want to see more content like this, smash the like button and subscribe. That's it for me. Peace out.